this video, we conclude our cross rate series. This is cross rates part 3, and in it, we'll calculate the cross rate of Swedish krona to Norwegian krona. The two respective currency pairs used in this calculation is the dollar Norwegian krona and the dollar Swedish krona. We start with identifying the base currency of the desired pair. In other words, the Swedish krona. That would be this second currency pair listed. So we have USD SEK as the base currency of dollars and Swedish krona as the counter. In order to perform our calculation, we need the Swedish krona to be in the base currency position. Let's do the adjustment with reference to the respective cash flows. As this currency pair is quoted at present, these refer to Swedish krona amounts and buying or selling 1 unit of the base currency. Therefore, we have buy 1 USD base and selling that amount of Swedish krona, or on the offer selling 1 unit of the base, selling 1 unit of the USD in return for 10.4913 Swedish krona. The adjustment we need to do to this calculation is dividing by the counter currency amount. In other words, we'll divide both of these values by this 10.4874, and then the 10.4874 by default will become 1 unit. On the offer side, both those values are divided by the offer rate in the counter currency, and we end up again with buying 1 Swedish krona and associated USD rate as a selling rate. What we have done, however, is inverted from a buying USD as the base currency to a rate where we have recalculated the base, and the base now becomes the Swedish krona. Therefore, this particular currency pair will in actual fact look as follows. This is now the rate of buying 1 Swedish krona or selling 1 Swedish krona. In other words, we have achieved what we set out to achieve. In other words, have the Swedish krona as the base currency of what we actually want our cross-currency base rate to be. This is the conversion of a rate that we provided where the USD is either stated in indirect or direct fashion, and we have to invert that rate. Moving on from here, we now turn our attention to the counter currency, which is the Norwegian krona. We're provided with a dollar Norwegian krona currency pair where the Norwegian krona is the counter currency, and therefore no adjustment is necessary. Let's calculate what these cash flows would be. Buying the base, in other words, buying the USD base, selling USD base, and selling the counter, which is the Norwegian krona in this instance. These are the cash flows we require in order to now calculate the cross rate. We have, once again, the first currency pair is what we want the base to be to the dollar. The next rate needs to be the dollar opposite of the previous rate or the previous cash flow from the first currency. In other words, if that's a sell, this needs to be a buy. And the counter currency, which is the desired counter currency, Norwegian krona in this case. The adjustment we need to make is these values here, these US dollar values, need to set off exactly. The way we achieve that is by multiplying the value of the counter currency in the first instance, first currency pair, to both the cash flows in the second. That will now look as follows. What we have managed to achieve now is these values will now set off exactly. Selling USD base 0.09532 and buying the base 0.09532, these values set off, as well as the two offer rates. So if we hide these because they cancel out, we will now have the cross rate. Buying 1 Swedish krona as the base rate will render that many Norwegian kronas. On the other side, in the offer rate, that would be the amount of Swedish kronas purchased. The method to calculate cross rates can be summarized as follows. Write down the bid and offer cash flows of the base USD currency pair. If you have the USD base rate, you will need to convert this rate. Next, record the bid and offer cash flows of the USD counter currency pair. If you receive the counter USD rate, in other words, the counter appears in the base position instead of the counter position, a conversion will be necessary. Adjust the second currency pair's exchange rates to ensure the USD cash flows have perfect set-off. With the USD cancelling out, the resulting counter currency rate will be the cross rate.